The 9th of December 1944. Nancy, France. Colonel Oskar Koch walked into Patton's office with bad news. 15 German divisions had vanished. Full-strength units, including panzers. Schaeff said they were in reserve. Koch disagreed. He spread maps across the desk and pointed to the Ardennes forest. That is where they will attack. Patton studied the terrain. 4 American divisions holding a line that needed 12. Dense forest, narrow roads, terrible for defense. Koch had evidence. Increased radio traffic. Prisoner reports of new units. Civilian sightings of unusual activity. When will they attack? Patton asked. Koch answered immediately. Within 2 weeks. Patton called Bradley and laid out the analysis. Bradley was not convinced. Schaeff intelligence disagreed. The war was almost over. Germany was finished. Bradley told Patton to stop worrying. Patton hung up and looked at Koch. He said nothing for a moment, then gave an order. Start planning. For 10 days, Patton's staff developed 3 complete contingency plans in secret. Detailed truck routes, pre-positioned fuel supplies, artillery batteries designated for rapid redeployment, infantry units assigned to specific roads, every variable covered. Plan A if the Germans attacked from one direction, Plan B for another, Plan C for a different scenario. The staff thought Patton had lost his mind. Third Army was advancing toward Germany. Why plan for an emergency 100 miles north? Because Patton trusted Koch more than Schaeff. On December 12, Patton told his commanders to be ready to disengage suddenly. He gave no explanation. They exchanged confused glances but obeyed. By December 15, Third Army was the only American force with contingency plans for the Ardennes. Everyone else expected the war to end by Christmas. 5:30 a.m., December 16. German artillery opened fire across an 80-mile front. 3 German armies, 200,000 men, smashed into 4 American divisions. Outnumbered 4-1. Units in quiet sectors suddenly fighting for survival. Communications cut. Commanders lost contact with troops. Schaeff dismissed early reports as local counterattacks. Hours passed before they understood the scale. At Third Army headquarters, Patton received the first reports and called his staff immediately. Koch, you were right. What is their objective? Bastogne, Koch answered. They need the crossroads then, Antwerp. Patton nodded. Get Gaffey. Execute the contingency plans. While other headquarters scrambled to understand what was happening, Patton was already moving. Third Army began disengaging from the Saar. Other generals would spend 3 days figuring out how to respond. Patton had figured it out 11 days earlier. December 19. Verdun. Eisenhower gathered every senior commander. The situation was desperate, but Eisenhower started with unexpected words. This is an opportunity, not a disaster. There will be only cheerful faces here. He understood something crucial. The Germans had left their defensive positions. They were exposed. If the Allies responded fast enough, disaster could become victory. But speed was the problem. Every unit was in the wrong place. Logistics seemed impossible. Eisenhower asked his critical question, how long to attack north and relieve Bastogne? Silence. Generals studied maps and calculated. Then Patton spoke. 2 divisions in 48 hours. 3 in 72. The room went quiet. Eisenhower pressed him. George, this is not showboating time. The 101st is surrounded. If we promise relief and fail, they die. Patton did not blink. I already gave the orders. Third Army is disengaging. I have 3 plans prepared. I have been waiting for this attack 11 days. The other generals stared. Waiting for it? How? The attack had surprised everyone. Eisenhower studied Patton. He knew when Patton bluffed and when he was serious. This was serious. "Very well, George. Get moving." Patton left and made one phone call. His chief of staff answered. The message was 2 words: commence. Those words activated plans prepared 11 days earlier. Within minutes, orders flooded. 3rd Army communications. The 4th Armored Division moved north. The 26th Infantry followed. The 80th Infantry prepared to redeploy. Pre-positioned truck convoys loaded troops. Artillery batteries relocated. Supply depots shifted focus from offense to relief operations. Over 133,000 vehicles would move through snow and ice. Supply lines redirected. Units in combat that morning would fight again 100 miles away within days. Other Allied armies watched in disbelief. They were still figuring out what was happening. 3rd Army was already responding. The movement began December 19 night and never stopped. An entire army turning 90 degrees. More than 100,000 men, thousands of tanks and trucks, all moving simultaneously. Weather was brutal. Snow, ice, freezing temperatures. Vehicles broke down. Men got frostbite. The movement continued. By December 21, the 4th Armored was in position. They had moved over 100 miles in 48 hours through the worst winter weather in decades while disengaging from combat. On December 22, 3rd Army attacked. The 4th Armored drove north toward Bastogne. Fighting was savage. Germans had fortified every approach. Every mile contested. Tank battles in frozen fields. Infantry through forests and villages. Inside Bastogne, the 101st Airborne held on. Low on everything. December 22. Germans demanded surrender. General McAuliffe sent his famous reply: nuts. The paratroopers would not quit. Relief was coming. December 26, 4:50 p.m. Lieutenant Charles Boggess in lead tank Cobra King broke through at Assenois. Contact with the 101st. The siege was broken. Patton called Eisenhower immediately. We reached Bastogne. The corridor was narrow. Germans attacked the flanks constantly. 3rd Army held. That night, supply convoys entered Bastogne. Ammunition, food, medical supplies. The 101st had held 8 days against overwhelming odds. Now they could keep fighting. The Battle of the Bulge continued another month. Germans failed their strategic objectives, but inflicted massive casualties. Over 19,000 Americans killed, 47,000 wounded, 23,000 captured or missing. The bloodiest American battle in World War II. But losses would have been far worse without Patton's relief. If the 101st had been defeated, if Germans captured that crossroads, the offensive might have split Allied armies. The intelligence failure haunted command. How had 200,000 Germans achieved complete surprise? How had 15 divisions disappeared unnoticed? The answer was damning. Someone had noticed. Oskar Koch tracked those divisions, predicted the offensive, identified the target. Schaeff rejected his analysis. Conventional wisdom said Germany was defeated. A major offensive was impossible. Only Patton listened. Only Patton prepared. When the attack came, only Patton was ready. After the war, interrogated German commanders revealed their expectations. Reach the Meuse in 4 days. Capture Antwerp in 2 weeks. American response would be slow and confused. They did not expect Patton. German commanders admitted Patton's counterattack disrupted their entire timeline. 3rd Army's speed shocked them. They calculated Americans needed a week minimum. Patton needed 4 days. General Hasso von Manteuffel commanded the 5th Panzer Army in the Ardennes. Post-war, he was specific. We knew Patton would react quickly. We did not know he had prepared for our attack. When his counteroffensive hit, we realized someone American had anticipated our plans. That person was Oscar Koch, but he worked for George Patton. That made all the difference. Patton received no medal for Bastogne, no special recognition. Official histories praised Third Army, but rarely mentioned the 11 days of preparation. Koch remained largely unknown outside intelligence circles. His prediction, one of the war's most accurate assessments, was overshadowed by the surprise story. But the lesson was clear inside the military. Intelligence only matters if commanders act on it. Preparation only works if leaders trust their people. Sheyev's failure was not incompetence. It was assumptions. Analysts decided the war was ending. They interpreted every piece of evidence through that lens. Koch approached evidence differently. He did not assume anything. He asked what the evidence actually showed. But good intelligence was not enough. Bradley was briefed. Sheyev saw the reports. All rejected them. Patton did not. He trusted his intelligence officer. He prepared for the possibility Koch was right and everyone else wrong. At Verdun, other generals thought Patton was grandstanding when he said 48 hours. He was not. He was stating a fact they should have realized. The Battle of the Bulge was an intelligence failure at the highest levels. But it was also the story of a general who listened when nobody else would. That is why Patton was the only general ready. Not luck, not recklessness, preparation. The 48-hour promise that seemed insane was 11 days of meticulous planning. When Patton said 48 hours, he was not guessing. He was stating fact based on detailed contingency plans. Truck routes calculated, fuel positioned, artillery designated, infantry assigned. Everything ready because Koch predicted the attack and Patton believed him. The insane plan worked because it was not insane. It was the only plan that existed. Every other commander started from zero, December 16. Patton started from detailed operational plans. That 11-day head start was the difference between relief in 4 days and relief that might have come too late. The 10,000 men of the 101st survived because Patton's insane plan was actually the most sane response everyone else failed to anticipate. The relationship between Patton and Koch was crucial. Patton was aggressive and flamboyant. Koch was quiet and methodical. Opposite personalities, complete trust. When Koch said 15 divisions were concentrating, Patton believed him despite Sheyev disagreement. When Patton ordered contingency planning nobody expected, Koch developed plans for every variable. That trust created effectiveness most organizations never achieve. Other commanders had talented intelligence officers too, but they did not listen when intelligence contradicted assumptions. Patton listened because he understood his job was preparing for what the enemy might do, not what he hoped they would do. That difference saved 10,000 men at Bastogne and possibly prevented German objectives. Third Army's speed from Saar to Ardennes demonstrated impossible capabilities by conventional standards, moving an entire army 90 degrees in 48 hours while maintaining combat effectiveness defied normal logistics. But Patton built Third Army to move fast. Supply systems that adapted quickly, commanders trained to decide without waiting, culture that valued speed over caution. When contingency plans activated, Third Army executed with shocking efficiency. German commanders could not understand how American forces fighting 100 miles away suddenly attacked their flank. Allied commanders could not understand how Patton reorganized so quickly. The explanation was preparation combined with culture prioritizing action. Patton spent months building an army that could do what Third Army did, December 1944. The 48-hour movement was not aberration, it was Third Army operating exactly as designed. Bastogne relief became one of World War II's defining moments and clearest demonstrations of Patton's genius. The story had dramatic elements: surrounded garrison facing annihilation, desperate race against time, commander making impossible promise, then delivering through preparation and execution exceeding expectations. McAuliffe's defiant nuts, Patton's 48-hour commitment, the December 26 breakthrough. These moments became legendary, studied in academies and celebrated in histories. But the deeper story was 11 days of preparation. Koch's intelligence identifying the threat, Patton's decision to trust that assessment despite higher headquarters disagreement, staff work translating warning into operational plans, organizational discipline allowing complex execution under worst conditions. Patton's controversial statements throughout the war sometimes obscured his fundamental competence. He was flamboyant and outspoken, creating problems with superiors. But he was meticulous in preparation, aggressive in execution, willing to trust expert subordinates. Bastogne showcased all these qualities. He prepared extensively based on dismissed intelligence. He executed aggressively when opportunity came. He trusted Koch despite institutional pressure to conform. He delivered results, validating his approach. Patton's genius was not making insane plans work through personality. His genius was recognizing that what looked insane to others was logical response to situations he analyzed more carefully. The 10,000 men of the 101st Airborne owed survival to multiple factors: their courage and ability, McAuliffe's leadership, attached units, weather allowing air supply, but also decisions by people they never met. Koch's intelligence work, identifying the offensive beforehand. Patton's trust leading to contingency planning. Staff officers spending 11 days developing plans. Drivers and supply personnel executing under brutal conditions. Tankers and infantry fighting through defenses. Military success required all elements working together, from intelligence to execution. Bastogne illustrated that clearly. Dramatic rescue was possible because every system element functioned effectively. The Battle of the Bulge changed war trajectory by exhausting Germany's last reserves. Bastogne relief changed the battle by preventing Germans from securing the essential crossroads. Patton's 48-hour movement changed relief by arriving fast enough. Koch's 11-day warning changed Patton's ability by providing advance notice for planning. Each element was necessary. Remove one, and outcomes might differ. The 101st might surrender, Germans might break through, battle might continue months. Historical outcomes are determined by chains of decisions. The chain leading to Bastogne began with an intelligence officer noticing 15 divisions disappeared and a general believing him. George Patton died less than a year after Bastogne, reputation secure as one of America's greatest commanders. The rescue became his most celebrated achievement, studied as military leadership at its finest. But Patton would insist the achievement belonged to Third Army as organization, Koch's intelligence, staff planning, soldiers executing. He made the critical decision to trust Koch and prepare. He gave orders activating plans. But success required thousands performing at extraordinary levels. Patton's role was creating conditions making such performance possible, building an army valuing speed and initiative, trusting competent subordinates, preparing for dismissed contingencies, executing with confidence when opportunity came. The Bastogne lesson for military organizations was preparation based on intelligence beats improvisation based on assumptions. Schaeff assumed Germany could not launch major offensive, so did not prepare. Patton prepared for the offensive Koch suggested, so could respond. The difference was not luck or brilliance, but systematic attention to warnings and willingness to act despite resistance. Organizations rewarding conformity miss threats not fitting patterns. Organizations tolerating dissent and acting on minority analysis prepare for threats that materialize. Patton's willingness to disagree with Schaeff exemplified leadership, identifying problems before crises. His 48-hour promise seemed insane to people who had not done his preparation, but was routine for an organization spending 11 days getting ready. The story became shorthand for aggressive, confident leadership winning battles. But the real story was more complex and instructive. Intelligence officers doing analytical work, planners developing contingencies for unlikely scenarios, supply personnel positioning resources before needed, commanders trusting subordinates telling uncomfortable truths, soldiers executing complex operations under terrible conditions because they were trained and prepared and led properly. The insane plan worked because it was not really insane. It was careful preparation by people taking jobs seriously and a commander trusting them. That was the Bastogne lesson, relevant long after the battle ended and soldiers went home.